So coming out of Super Tuesday, I have a few issues with the votes that were cast, but I also have an issue with the difficulty that many people had in casting those votes in the first place. There were incredibly long lines here in California in some places. I was lucky to go to a polling place where I was able to get through in less than 30 minutes. Some people had to wait literally hours, late into the night. It was even worse in Texas. Election officials in the Houston area were forced to send in additional voting machines as thousands of people reportedly waited for up to 5 hours to vote at one station. I know it's not this simple, but my advice would be, if you have a cool storage place of a bunch of extra machines, send them out for the election. I know that's not how it actually works, but people had to wait a long time. Take a look at this guy. This is last voter at the Texas Southern University. Hervis Rogers waited 7 hours to vote in America at a university.
We can't keep talking about how we have the best system in the world. We can't keep talking about how we're this democratic juggernaut, and we need to teach the world how to really how to carry on their government if we can't carry it out. So you have extra voting machines that you had to emergency rush in because there wasn't enough. And there's not hair-pulling outrage in the country about it. If you think about it, if you go to your local grocery store and you see about 7 to 10 employees walking around not doing anything, and then there's 2 cashiers open, and there's lines down each aisle from each one, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna say, what's going on? Somebody needs to get some cashiers in the front. How are you guys running this business? You see all these lines, we're waiting forever, get someone up here. And you'd be justified in saying so. Now, I've seen people do that, and I was like, yeah, that guy's kind of off the rails, he's unhinged, he's mad. But I get his point. You'd get mad about just checking out from the grocery store if you have to wait for 30 minutes. That's a long time. Imagine standing in line for 7 hours to vote for leadership in your country that is supposed to be the best in the world at this. But you have extra employees, quote unquote, cash registers and cashiers hanging out, not doing anything. Why is this the case? Maybe it's on purpose?
Yeah, maybe. Like, look, the having to deploy the emergency ones, okay, maybe you have a cache so that, like, depending on which one fails, you send it there. But the fact that it failed was not really a surprise. Texas has closed 750 entire polling locations. I'm not even talking about pulled some of the machines from a location. They've shut down, getting on towards 1,000 polling locations in the last 8 years. The state had 1 polling place for every 4,000 residents back in 2012. That number almost doubled by 2018. Because I think that we can all agree that in Texas in 2012, a lot of people in Texas were saying, it's too easy to vote, like I'm just in and out, like come on, give me a challenge or something, and they achieved that. And so what's shocking is that the 50 counties that saw the highest growth in Black and Latino population had 542 sites close in those 6 years, while the 50 counties with the lowest Black and Latino population growth saw just 34 closures. And that came despite the population in those top 50 counties rising by 2.5 million people, while the other 50 saw their population fall by 13,000.
Does that make sense?
That makes all the sense in the world if you are a racist that hates the idea of democracy.
I'm telling you these things, and actually it's disappointing that both parties aren't outraged by this. Well, I mean, I understand why one party isn't, but so the other party that's supposed to be open to more voters coming in isn't making this the #1 issue. It has to be what it is, but maybe they're content with it as well. Or when we talk about the Voting Rights Act doesn't need to be strengthened or actually gets stripped and becomes toothless because, oh, it's okay, the states will handle it, we've gotten by that problem. Yeah. Well, we've recreated the problem that actually never went away. But if you wanna act like we've gotten by it, well, you're making it happen again, and then who's to say, who's gonna be the one to actually bring this issue back up?
Yeah, and look, for years now, I've been frustrated by the fact that the way I described it on Twitter was we have one party that is engaged in a decades-long war to kill democracy, and we have another party that's standing on the sidelines like, they're apathetic. Technically, they probably support people voting, but when they had a supermajority in the Senate, what did they do to make sure that we could vote in the future? By the way, I want you to really think about that, because it's not just, like you could say that for virtually any topic. When they had the power to do virtually anything they wanted, why didn't they use it? But in this case, it's not just that it's the right thing to do. It's not just that they call themselves Democrats but don't seem to care about democracy. It would help them pragmatically to win elections in the future, and they still didn't do it. So why the lack of action? Why is it the case that this can continue to develop, not in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but Up to and including 2018, they're still doing this. And the Democrats, for the most part, are like, yeah, that's unfortunate. Man, oh, that Trump, he's a bad guy.
You know, maybe I like to do reverse on people that are very, like, don't care about other people's rights. So maybe we should start having a push. Not enough old, rich, white people have enough opportunity to vote. I want to give them more of an opportunity to vote. We keep closing polling locations in white, rich areas. What's the matter with this country? We need to make a major push because white folks are losing their rights to vote. Let's just keep pushing this false narrative, and maybe they'll point out and say, hey, you guys, old, rich, white folks don't have any hurdles in voting. Like, that's right.
Nah, it is right.
Yeah,
it's nice, it's nice. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.